On an ordinary street, in an ordinary town, stood a house just like any other. A two-story colonial with pale blue siding and a neatly trimmed lawn. But behind that perfectly normal facade, a secret was growing. The Levi family was considered the model of suburban success. Yet, within that seemingly perfect family unit, one of their own was methodically planning the unthinkable. My name is Sarah, and I grew up on that street. The house next to mine was the Levi house. For 18 years, they weren't just neighbors. They were a part of the fabric of my childhood. I thought I knew their son, Daniel. But as I would later learn, with a horror that still chills me to this day, I didn't know him at all. It's a cautionary tale about the secrets we keep and the truths we fail to see until it's far, far too late. Life on Maple Street was predictable, in the best way possible. The kind of predictability that brings comfort and a sense of belonging. The rhythm of our days was marked by familiar sounds. The hum of lawnmowers, the laughter of children playing, and the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. It was a community built on a foundation of shared experiences and unspoken trust. Everyone knew each other, and there was a sense of security in that. The Levis fit into this picture perfectly. They were the epitome of the ideal neighbors. David was an accountant, a quiet man with a gentle smile who spent his weekends gardening. He took pride in his well-kept yard. Karen was a nurse, warm and energetic, always organizing neighborhood events. She had a knack for bringing people together. They were the kind of people you felt lucky to have as neighbors, always ready to lend a hand or share a smile. My parents were close with the Levis. They shared many laughs and stories over the years. I have countless memories of summer evenings spent in their backyard. The smell of barbecue and the sound of crickets filling the air. Our fathers would stand by the grill, talking about work and local sports. It was their time to bond. We kids would run wild across the lawns, playing tag or hide and seek until dusk. Those were the days of endless fun and freedom. Looking back, that sense of normalcy is what makes everything so much harder to comprehend. It was a facade that hid deeper truths. They were integrated, involved, and seemingly transparent. The perfect neighbors in every sense. That illusion would one day be shattered into a million pieces. The reality beneath the surface was far more complex. The Levi family consisted of 4 people, living in a quiet neighborhood where everyone seemed to know each other. Their home was always tidy, filled with laughter and the usual chaos of family life. Emily was bright and outgoing, a star student and a talented soccer player. She was the kind of person who made friends easily, always eager to help others and quick to smile. She was the pride of the family, the one everyone talked about at neighborhood gatherings. Then there was Daniel. He was my age, and we were in the same grade from kindergarten all the way through high school. We shared many of the same teachers and sat together on the school bus for years. While Emily was a shining star, Daniel was more of a shadow, often lingering quietly in the background. He was quiet, reserved, and often seemed to be in his own world. Sometimes it felt like he was watching life from a distance, never quite stepping into the spotlight. Our interactions were typical of kids who grow up next to each other. We shared inside jokes, played games, and sometimes argued over silly things. We built forts, rode our bikes, and sometimes did our homework together. Those afternoons felt endless, filled with the simple joys of childhood. Daniel would answer in short, polite sentences, his eyes often drifting toward the window, as if he was searching for something far away. As we grew older, that distance seemed to grow. Our conversations became less frequent, and he seemed to slip further into his own thoughts. He spent more and more time alone in his room, often with the door closed. We all accepted it, thinking it was just a phase or part of growing up. After all, he was still the same quiet, harmless Daniel we had always known, and no one imagined there could be more beneath the surface. Even in the most seemingly perfect families, there are whispers. With the Levis, these whispers were so faint you could easily dismiss them as nothing. Their praise for Emily was effusive and constant. But when it came to Daniel, their words were different. It was a subtle difference, but one I noticed even as a child. Daniel is so bright, Karen might say, he just needs to apply himself more. There were also the arguments. Our houses were close enough that on quiet summer nights you could sometimes hear raised voices. Often, they seemed to revolve around Daniel. The next day, everything would be back to normal. The smiles would be back in place, and the tension would be gone. We saw the polished exterior and assumed the interior was just as pristine. We didn't realize that behind closed doors they were struggling. Daniel himself was the biggest red flag, though none of us recognized him as such at the time. His quietness wasn't just shyness, it was a profound lack of emotional expression. Whether he was receiving a good grade or being picked last, his reaction was always the same. This emotional void became more apparent as we entered our teenage years. I remember one incident in particular. A popular kid was teasing Daniel, making fun of his worn-out sneakers. Instead, he just stared at the boy with an unnerving stillness. It was strangely intimidating. He also had a strange fixation on small, intricate things. His focus was intense, almost obsessive. At the time, we just labeled him as weird or a loner. We mistook his unnerving calm for maturity or self-control. The summer before our senior year of high school was when the cracks in the Levi family's facade began to show more clearly. It was a time when the illusion of their perfect life started to crumble, revealing the underlying tensions that had been simmering for years. The tension that had once been confined to muffled arguments started to spill out. The walls that once contained their disputes could no longer hold back the rising tide of discontent. There was a noticeable strain between David and Karen. Their once warm and loving relationship had turned cold, and the distance between them grew more apparent with each passing day. They were still going through the motions of their perfect life, but the effort was becoming visible. The forced smiles and hollow laughter at the dinner table were a stark contrast to the underlying tension. The main source of this tension was, as always, Daniel. His presence seemed to be a constant reminder of the family's unresolved issues. He had become even more reclusive. Daniel's withdrawal from the world around him was both a symptom and a cause of the family's growing unease. He rarely left the house, and when he did, he was always alone. His solitary walks through the neighborhood only added to the sense of isolation that surrounded him. Around this time, strange things started happening in the neighborhood. Small pets went missing. The community was on edge, but no one knew where to point the finger. Of course, no one connected it to the quiet boy next door. Daniel's presence was almost ghost-like, barely noticed by those around him. The most significant crack appeared just a few weeks before the tragedy. It was as if the house itself was beginning to show the strain of the family's hidden turmoil. Emily, the golden child, came home from her first semester at college for the weekend. Her arrival was supposed to be a joyous occasion, a brief respite from the growing tension. I saw her arguing with her parents in their driveway. The heated exchange was a stark reminder that even the golden child was not immune to the family's troubles. The next day, Emily left, and a heavy, ominous silence fell over the house next door. It was as if her departure had taken the last vestige of hope with it, leaving behind an air of impending doom. It was a Tuesday in October. The leaves were turning brilliant shades of red and gold. I came home from school, dropped my backpack by the door, and went to the kitchen for a snack. That's when I saw them. 2 police cars were parked in front of the Levi house, their lights flashing silently. My first thought was that there had been a break-in. Yellow police tape was being unrolled, cordoning off the entire property. Neighbors started to emerge from their homes, gathering in small, hushed groups. The hours that followed were a blur of speculation and growing horror. The official news came later that evening. The bodies of David and Karen Levi had been discovered inside their home. Their 17-year-old son Daniel was missing, and police had named him as the sole person of interest. In the days that followed, the story unraveled, each new detail more horrific than the last. The police had been called to the house by Emily. She had been trying to reach her parents for 2 days with no success. When officers entered the home, they found David and Karen. They had been deceased for at least 48 hours. The cause of death was not a sudden act of violence. It was methodical. Daniel had been systematically poisoning his parents over a period of weeks. The police found his journals, filled with chillingly detached observations. The motive, if you could call it that, was as baffling as the crime itself. Daniel felt no hatred for his parents. He saw his own family not as people to be loved, but as variables in an experiment. The missing neighborhood pets suddenly made a horrifying kind of sense. The impact on our community was profound. Today, the Levi house is still there, but it's different. New people live in it now, a young family who knows nothing of its history. But for those of us who remember, the house will forever be haunted. It stands as a constant, silent reminder of the darkness that can hide behind the most ordinary of doors. The tragedy changed all of us who lived through it. We learned that normal is just a surface. Daniel Levi is now serving consecutive life sentences in a maximum security prison. He has never expressed remorse for what he did. The story of the Levi family is a chilling tale, but it's not just a story. It's a warning. The signs are almost always there, hiding in plain sight. The question that lingers is a simple one: what are we missing right now, in our own neighborhoods?